But he was not given that opportunity. They decided they were the judge for him, and they removed him without him ever seeing a courtroom. If he were to return, which is what we are asking for, fine. Put forward your evidence, file a motion, have a judge make a decision.
Now, if you're wondering what you just listened to, you happen to hear the sound of the voice of a young lady named Rena Gandhi. She is the attorney for the family of Kilmar Garcia. She's on an interview with Breonna Keller on CNN. And apparently, Miss Gandhi, as an attorney, forgot one of the fundamental rules in a judicial or public relations fight, and that is never open the door for your opponent to present evidence that can absolutely kill your case. Well, in the case of Miss Gandhi, as a lawyer and in the court of public opinion, she made that massive mistake. Wonder what I'm talking about? Hold on, folks. We're going to get into all this in just 1 second.
My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative. Step on up to my electronic front porch and let's talk.
Yesterday afternoon, the Trump administration went on offense over the issue of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland gentleman who was deported to El Salvador, on the question of whether or not he was a member of MS-13. Well, as I said in the intro, the one rule about courtrooms and public relations fights, never give your opponent the chance to define you, and that's exactly what happened here. In a press conference at the Justice Department, Attorney General Pam Bondi was asked about the Garcia case, and she came up with something that opened the door for a lot of people to have a lot of egg on their face. We go to that press conference. Here is the question that she was presented.
The evidence. We're not going to see the evidence.
We have the transcripts from the court hearings. I'll be glad to give you the court hearings from 2019, what we have, sure. With the rulings from the judges, gladly.
Oh, and gladly did she do so. And in doing so, like I said, is going to make a lot of people eat a lot of crow. Ladies and gentlemen, let me show you something in case you haven't seen it yet. I present to you the documents from 2019 when Abrego Garcia was brought before an immigration judge. Standard paperwork, most of it, nothing major to report, but you'll notice something else. When you get to the second page, and the question becomes, why, in part, was this man arrested and or detained or should be questioned on the issue of whether or not returned to the country of origin, you'll notice his dress, arrested alone. All right, that by itself isn't enough to do it. But from a reliable source, he's affiliated with a gang and he frequents gang areas, which, by the way, that's where he was picked up. Now, this in and of itself doesn't necessarily make the case for why he ought to go, but it does allow people to understand. The judges at the time, which would have been about, call it 6 years ago now, determined that he was a member of MS-13 on the basis of the fact of the testimony of a confidential witness. Now, fast forward 6 years. Donald Trump declares MS-13 to be a terrorist organization, issues an order that says, hey, member of MS-13, you are deported out of the country. Goodbye, you're gone. And voila, Kilmar Garcia is put on an airplane back to El Salvador. But there's more information that's come out since then. Democrats and people in the media have tried to portray Kilmar Garcia as a Maryland man, a peace-loving man, a family-loving man. Really? Well, I've got a report here that you definitely may want to take a look at. And it's this. From justthenews.com, we have the following. Biden administration flagged deported El Salvadoran as illegal alien suspected of human smuggling. Kilmar Abrego Garcia was stopped in Tennessee driving on an expired license and was also subject to a domestic abuse protective order requested by his wife, records show. Now she is making television appearances and participating in fundraising efforts, so far netting almost $200,000. Article by Stephen Richards and John Solomon, we've got the following. The deported El Salvadoran man at the center of an intense court battle was flagged in 2022 by the Biden administration as a suspect alien who was possibly involved in human smuggling and trafficking after a traffic stop hundreds of miles from his Maryland home, according to the Department of Homeland Security documents reviewed by Just the News. The records don't indicate whether the Biden administration ever followed up on the concerns. Kilmar Abrego Garcia was stopped in Tennessee for driving erratically and speeding by a state trooper in late November 2022 and was found to be driving an SUV full of people coming from Texas with an expired Maryland driver's license, according to documents. Quote, subject was observed speeding and unable to maintain his lane and was subsequently pulled over, one entry stated. Encountering officer decided not to cite the subject for driving infractions, but gave him a warning citation for driving with an expired driver's license, the memo states. Maryland is one of the states that issue driver's licenses to illegal aliens, which, by the way, that is what he was determined to be. I'll prove that here momentarily. Anyway, back to the article in question. The circumstances of the stop led the trooper to believe that human trafficking was involved, according to a summary of the incident recorded in Homeland Immigration Alert on December 6, 2022. Quote, during the interview, subject pretended to speak less English than he was capable of and attempted to put encountering officer off track by responding to questions with questions. When asked about the relationship he had with the registered owner of the vehicle, subject replied the owner of the vehicle is his boss and that his work is in construction. There was no luggage in the vehicle, leading the encountering officer to suspect this was human trafficking. Homeland's own system categorized the incident under the title Human Smuggling Trafficking, the memos show. The records indicate the incident was located by Homeland Security Investigations during a review of computer-aided dispatch reports generated anytime law enforcement stops a suspect. Well, now, do we know for sure this was human trafficking? No, we don't. Do we know he was smuggling people into the country for sure? No, we don't. But there's no luggage in there. If these guys were being brought in to work construction, then that sort of begs the question, why didn't they have anything with them in the way of personal items? And what's this guy doing driving on an expired driver's license? If Maryland does indeed issue driver's licenses to people who are illegal aliens, he shouldn't have had any trouble whatsoever getting a renewal on that thing. But I digress. Now, as to the question about this protective custody order, well, here's something for you to take a look at. Check this out. This is a copy of the order from back in 2022, issued at the time by his wife, Jennifer Vasquez, and she states quite clearly that there were incidents where she was punched and scratched, her shirt was ripped off, and grabbed and bruised the petitioner. Oh, my goodness. Folks, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not everything that's being claimed of him, so you begin to understand why it is that the Trump administration was very anxious to see this man out of the country. But I go back to something else that's very, very important. I've got an article here from the Associated Press. Who is Kilmar Abrego Garcia? Well, let me point out one part of this article written by a gentleman named Ben Finley, and it's this. Abrego Garcia fled to the U.S. illegally around 2011, the year he turned 16. Ladies and gentlemen, lay aside the question of whether or not he was MS-13. Lay aside the question of Trump's executive order. Lay aside everything else for a moment. Abrego Garcia is here illegally. Let me say that again. Abrego Garcia is here illegally. He was turned over to the El Salvadoran government. El Salvador is his nation of origin. So I have a question for all you folks out there on the left. What's the problem here? The man was in the country illegally. He had an opportunity to seek asylum. He was denied asylum. He was sent back to the country of his origin. Case closed. But that's what I've got to say about it. What do you think? As we start to wrap up this video, please do me some favors as always. Number 1, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please do so. Number 2, please make sure that you hit the bell for notifications. I want to make sure you're always aware when a new video is coming out, be it a live stream or just like this, a regular video. Also, leave a comment below and hit the thumbs up button. It really does help with the algorithm. And finally, please share the link. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative, and I'll see you next time.